Two receivers to the far side, one to the near for Wolf. He's flushed, takes a shot, and bobbled and caught, and that is a touchdown!
And the light show is coming here at Southmoreland.
Live on the Westmoreland Sports Network, this is Westmoreland on the Gridiron, powered by Bowser. Here's your hosts, Sean Myers and Dan Flickinger.
And we welcome you back for another edition, a special playoff edition of Westmoreland on the Gridiron here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean Myers, Dan Flickinger back for our second very special postseason show. And Flick, we got a lot to get to. We have three coaches interviews this week. Mike Brown of Norwin, John Ruane of Penn Trafford, a very special on-location interview there at Penn Trafford High School with the head man of the Warriors. And once again, Thomas Pallone of Jeanette. We're also going to look at the top performers from the first week of the playoffs, or week 10, if you want to go that route, and then look ahead at all the updated brackets. But let's break down what the Westmoreland County teams did in the first week of the playoffs. And to be honest, it was not that great of a showing. We had just one team move on, that being the Jeanette Jayhawks. We'll start with some of the games that we had the broadcasts of, including Highlands 14, Derry area nothing in the Class 3A first round. And for the Trojans, I think that they should be pretty proud with how they played defensively. Unfortunately, they were mistake-prone on offense. 4 turnovers, you're probably not going to win many games. And so Max Doherty goes over 100 yards, but still they could not get any points on the board. They only allowed 1 touchdown on defense because Highlands actually had a defensive touchdown. So I think Mike Garone, it's a step forward, but ultimately they just needed a little bit more firepower, especially with the passing attack.
Yeah, and we mentioned, the way that they were passing the ball down the stretch, that it would go a long way in the playoffs if you can throw the ball a little bit. Obviously, Max was going to take the bulk of the offense, but you need to be able to throw the ball a little bit, and they were not able to do that, as you mentioned. 4 turnovers. I know the wind maybe played a factor, not making excuses, but from what I saw. And when you start the game, Sean, with the football, you take 2 false starts and then a bad snap and then an interception return for a touchdown. You throw a pick 6. That's a really rough way to start a playoff game that you're not heavily favored in someone else's barn, or I guess that'd be hockey terms. Someone else's field.
With it.
You understood what I meant.
Yes.
That makes it really hard to win a game, and Mike Garone said so, after the game. Like you mentioned, the Derry defense, they gave up a good amount of yards to a good running back, but they only gave up 7 points, if you look at it that way, because of that pick 6, kind of going against the offense, if you will. So, and it was interesting, too, looking back at the game, Derry's best drive, they went on a 10-play, 63-yard drive, did not score on it, but during that drive, they nearly hit a trick play for a touchdown. And at that point, they were down, I believe it was 7-0 in the second quarter. And they really had an opportunity to get right back into the game. But unfortunately, the trick play, the pass from the running back, it wasn't Doherty. I don't know if it was Wires. But when he threw it, it wasn't overthrown. It wasn't underthrown. It just kind of like went out of bounds. So it was kind of like offline. The receiver was wide open on that play. If they hit that play, maybe the game turns around. Maybe it's a little bit different. But obviously that didn't happen. And so Highlands gets their first ever playoff shutout. They move on, and Derry can definitely build on some things, I think, coming up next year. They have some good players returning, and so we'll see. We'll see how Mike Garone's group fares next season.
Kevin Owen Kratzenberg, the only touchdown offensively for Highlands. He's been so good, and he had a good game, 172 yards rushing on 24 carries. Just found the end zone one time, however. So, again, Derry area, a very game performance for the Trojans, just came up a little shy. In that same bracket, this was pretty surprising. It was the game that I had the call of. Southmoreland looking for that first ever postseason victory, and it turned out to not even be competitive at the end of the game. 42-6, Hopewell pulls off the upset and just completely dominated that game in the second half. Now, was the score a little misleading? Yes, because the Vikings kind of tacked on late, but Southmoreland, man, I really thought that this could be the year. I knew it would be a tough matchup against a team that was better than their record indicated. But ultimately, Hopewell from pretty early on just asserted its dominance. They got a terrific sophomore quarterback in Boo Boo, James Armstrong, who's getting all sorts of college interest. He was good, but he didn't single-handedly win the game. It was a lot of the other guys. Hopewell was kind of controlling the line of scrimmage, and ultimately the offense that at times has been inconsistent for Southmoreland put up just 6 points on an Averion Darnell 20-yard touchdown reception from Dawson Wolf. So a tough way for the season to end. They had a historic campaign with 9 wins. They got a home playoff game, but it still kind of feels a lot like some of the prior years where, as good of the regular season was, it feels like they left something out there because they couldn't get that elusive playoff victory.
And it's amazing too, like, you see a team all year and you think one thing, about them, and then they face a true test, like a team that's pretty darn good in Hopewell, even though they were seated lower. And the defense gives up 42 points. And I know, again, like you mentioned, they really pulled away at the end. Hopewell kind of poured it on, at the end, but still 200 yards rushing. I mean, that was not a prediction that I would have made going into that game. I was concerned about the offense, certainly. We haven't seen them all year really have any consistency. So that was my concern, but I did not think the defense would give up 42 points in the game. Again, saw a lot of their games this year. So, still a very good year, obviously, a great record, finishing, Sean, 9-2, I believe?
Yep. Yeah, the 9 wins setting a school record. So, I mean, they already achieved that in the regular season.
So you win 9 of 11 games. That's tremendous. But I know, every single year we get to this point. It seems like every single year now for Southmoreland, they get to this point where they finally can, host a playoff game, have an opportunity to win a playoff game, and come up short. So I'm sure that Dustin Schoaf is a very prideful guy. Even though he's not originally from Southmoreland, I know how much he cares about the kids, after finishing his first year as head coach. So I'm sure that's something that, how he'll have in the back of his mind, still wanting to get that first playoff win going into the offseason.
A couple things that really swung the game early. The first 2 touchdowns for Hopewell both came on 4th downs. And the one, I thought they were taking a big risk because they've got one of the best kickers in WPIAL history. That's not an exaggeration. He has twice kicked 55-yarders, which at the time tied the record. It's since been broken. But they decided to pass on the 3 points, kept the offense out, touchdown pass. Then they have a 4th and short. They go QB sneak. That makes sense. But their quarterback, Boo Boo, he didn't get 1 yard. He got like 31 yards into the end zone. It was just a complete breakdown defensively. You kind of sell out to stop the short gainer, and once he got past that initial line of defenders, he was able to take off. And then there was a defensive touchdown by the Vikings as they recovered a fumble and took it in directly. So those were all in the first half. That puts Southmoreland so far behind, and it's really, I think you can attest, an offense that's better when they can use their entire playbook as opposed to having to try to throw the ball quite a bit, which, to your point, all across the WPAL Friday night, there was some wind gusts. So sometimes we just saw in kickoffs when Hopewell's strong leg kicker was kicking one way, it went literally through the end zone. He kicked the other way and it got down to about the 5-yard line and was returned. So it was a factor, and that made it hard to pass, although somehow the Vikings certainly figured out how to pass it with much greater success than the Scotties.
By the way, Boo Boo might be my son Landon's favorite WPL quarterback because he always has boo-boos. He's always falling.
Did you see that their running back, Nasir Wade, who apparently is related to the Clairton Wades?
Right, yeah.
His nickname is Bruiser.
So they have Bruiser and Boo Boo in the backfield. Did you say that at all?
Yes, and Bruiser is not a big guy.
Uh-huh.
He does not, like you're thinking like this massive, like Derrick Henry, Mike Allstott. He's like a very small, diminutive, speedy back. But certainly he bruised the Scotties in that one. He was actually the guy who had that fumble recovery return on defense. So congrats to Hopewell. That's an impressive win for a 5th-place team out of their conference. And again, for Southmoreland, 9 wins, but not to finish. The Scotties.
And by the way, Sean, before we move on, I just want to give a shout out to Brian Pritz, the athletic director at Southmoreland. Just a tremendous guy, and always shows us great hospitality. We were there to set up early because we were also helping the NFHS network with soccer the last couple of days, Wednesday through Saturday, the soccer championship. So we were there early to set up so we could do some other things before the game started, and always very hospitable to us. And we see him a lot. He, I think, is a WPIAL kind of site rep. We see him around other playoff venues as well. And again, just a really good guy. And I think I saw somewhere that he's up for athletic director of the year too. So go vote for Brian as well.
Yes, I think there was 5 candidates. Drew Carpin from Plum was another one, and then I don't remember a few of the other people. But yeah, by the way, it doesn't really matter when your team loses a game, but the pregame with the lights going out and they did kind of like a purge thing. It was awesome.
Nice.
It was legitimately like one of the cooler things that I've seen at the high school level. So you just hope that somehow they can have the pregame festivities and then they can have the postgame celebration for a playoff win in a future season. No playoff win for Kiski area either. The Cavaliers fall 28-8 against Shaler. That was the 8-9 matchup, and to be honest, both teams struggled for a lot of the season, but they were able to do what they needed to in their conference to get in. I really thought the Cavaliers had a chance. Ultimately, they just got 1 touchdown, and Andrew Finney touchdown reception from Landon Artman, and Aaron Aversa, the quarterback on the other side. 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 passing touchdown. The Titans were under fire early this season. They were off to kind of a miserable start. Kiski area had that brutal stretch on the road when they were going against some of those powerhouse teams like Norwin and Hempfield and Penn Trafford. So it's an accomplishment for both of them to make the playoffs. Ultimately, the Cavaliers, I think they're going to learn a lot from this year because they're a very young team. They've got freshmen and sophomores all over the field.
Yeah, and a new head coach that just finished off, his season in Colton Haas. So, it'll be interesting to see, kind of a year under his belt, a year under his belt with the kids, and see how they do next year with, again, a lot of players returning. Yeah, I thought I had this game a little bit closer. I thought Shaler was probably the favored team, but I thought it'd be a bit closer. Did not happen, and we'll see what happens here going into the offseason for Kiski area. For Shaler, they get the gift of facing Pine Richland next round.
Yeah, have fun with that one. That was the 5A first round, by the way. Back to 3A, where North Catholic wins 56-14 over Burrell. So a couple things. We've mentioned Antonio Perkins almost every single week. He did it again. He went for over 200 yards rushing on 19 carries, scored 2 touchdowns for them. I mean, truly, he had one of the better seasons that I remember a Westmoreland County player having, albeit about probably 70% of his production was as a runner. And as the season went along, he really didn't pass the ball all that much. So we'll see how they continue to use him as a quarterback going forward. But he's a pretty darn explosive player. On the other end, talking about quarterbacks, Joey Filitsky had truly, this is no exaggeration, one of the best games that a quarterback probably has ever had. And I truly mean that. He was 23 of 24 for 433 yards and 6 touchdowns in the first half. So 1 incompletion. Now, I do wonder.
What happened on that? Yeah, throw. Is that what you're wondering?
Was it his fault? Was it like a throwaway? Was it a drop?
Did it get tipped?
That's it, because it wasn't like dinking and dunking necessarily, right? When you throw for 433 yards, you're probably getting some intermediate to deeper throws mixed in as well. So for the Buccaneers, they have a big time playmaker on offense. They probably would, maybe want to get the passing game going a little more, but they're going to have to figure out a way defensively to slow down some good teams. And North Catholic's really been doing this all season. Second straight year, Filitsky led the WPIAL in passing in the regular season. So he does this a lot, but you can't allow a performance that efficient and that prolific if you want to have a chance in the postseason.
I don't even know how you have enough time in the first half to throw for 437 yards. And, I mean, you look at Perkins. Now, I don't know if he got a lot of those yards in the second half. I would guess that he probably
had, I think, like a 90-yarder, which helps a lot.
So I was going to say, if he's rushing for that many yards in the first half, then they have the ball, and there's no way Filitsky throws for 437 if that was the case. But either way, you rush for over 218 or rush for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns in a playoff game. You're thinking, you're not losing 56-14, but that's unfortunately what happened, in this game to Burrell. But it'll be interesting to see, an encore for Perkins next year. I mean, he was just unbelievable. Kind of took Westmoreland County and really WPL by storm with, the great performances he had for Burrell this season. So. We'll see how, again, the Bucks kind of go into the offseason and, return next year. Also under a first year, now going to be second-year head coach, and Dom Girardi.
Yeah, first-year head coach. First year for Perkins at Burrell. He came by way of Valley. He's just a sophomore, so he's got 2 years remaining as well. So maybe arrow trending up for the Buccaneers. That was a cool moment for them even to get to the postseason, because certainly we did not know heading into the final week of the regular season if they would be one of those teams. A team we knew that would be in the mix for the playoffs was Jeanette, and the Jayhawks pull off what at least has to be considered by seeding an upset, although I don't think it's all that surprising that Jeanette won 38-24 at Bentworth. Bentworth, a team from the Tri-County South that just has a miserable postseason resume. And Jeanette, when you talk about postseason success, it's almost assumed the Jayhawks are going to be better once they get to postseason football. But it was a close game. It was tied in the fourth quarter. Jeanette then scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. Block punt return for a touchdown. Kimani Brown had another game where he went over 100 passing, over 100 rushing. We're going to hear from their head coach, Thomas Pallone, but I kind of expected that they would have a good chance to win this game. Tri-County South ended up going winless. Even the best seeded team out of that conference, which was Cal, lost to Frazier. So I think that exposed that conference a little bit. And, credit to the Eastern Conference that represented itself pretty well. But this is just what Jeanette does. And although they had multiple hiccups this year, sort of where we expected them to be, which is in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so. Last year they made a run as a lower seed. Now this year looking to do so as well. Obviously will be a Titanic challenge this week against Clairton. But yeah, I mean, you look back at that game, as you mentioned, the block punt, that was huge. 17-17 going into the fourth quarter, really was a dogfight. Kimani Brown scores to get Jeanette ahead, and then the Noah Sunder 10-yard block punt return for the touchdown kind of put the game away. McAllister still with the block, and Sunder runs it back for a touchdown, and then Nick Mendoza really puts it on ice. You mentioned 21 straight points, the 40-yard touchdown run. Bentworth only one playoff win in history, I believe I saw, coming into the game. And I think Tommy Pallone said after the game, he mentioned the atmosphere there. And, when your team isn't used to making the playoffs, isn't used to having playoff success, sometimes you actually get a better atmosphere because they want it that bad. So, kind of a hostile environment to Jeanette to play in. Again, dogfight through the first three quarters, and then, in the fourth quarter, Jeanette's able to kind of flex its muscles and pull away a little bit. But just a huge play, that special teams play by McAllister Steele to get the block, and then Noah Sunder to run it back.
By the way, McAllister Steele's just been awesome for them because he's been a very good kicker all season long. There's been, I think he kicked a field goal in that game. Also, Bentworth had like one of the best running backs in all of the WPIAL, and Ben Hayes. Now, he got some yards. He got into the end zone, but he didn't do what maybe he didn't have one of those like 6 touchdown, 300-yard games that we've seen from him. So you didn't think you were going to completely shut him down if you're Jeanette. You just had to make sure he didn't cost you the game. And they were able to do enough against him to limit his production. I know he had a big special teams play as well, did Hayes, but Jeanette was, for the most part, able to contain him, and a pretty good job done there by the Jayhawks. By the way, Flick, this was a trivia question I was asking some of my colleagues.
Oh, here we go.
Do you have any idea where Bentworth is?
You know what? Well, again, I mentioned earlier we were doing the soccer championships. Bentworth girls and boys, by the way, won WPL titles on Thursday. And somebody did ask where Bentworth was, and I wasn't paying attention, of course. I was doing something else. So
I asked Matt Palumbo.
Enlighten me.
Bentleyville.
That's right. You called one of them. Where is it again?
Bentleyville.
Bentleyville. Gotcha.
So it's not far from California, Pennsylvania. And it's really not all that far from Westmoreland County when you get to like the Bell Vernon, Monessen area. You go a little past Charleroi, Bentleyville, down there.
Well, unfortunately, we wanted to broadcast the game, at least on audio, and the AD was very nice, but basically said that there would be a lot of issues with space. So, unfortunately, we were not able to broadcast it. But
that's 1A schools, man. Like
that's just what it is. That's the life.
Yeah, you're either climbing a ladder and sitting perilously on a roof somewhere, or you're in a press box that probably fits 4 people, but there's 8 people in there, like that.
Well, that's the thing about Jeanette too. Like Jeanette's press box is fine. Like it's built nice. It's just there's barely any room in it for anybody. So I don't know. Maybe it'll change someday.
Well, we've had to cram into the press box and sometimes not even get into the press box at Greensburg Central Catholic as well. True. The Centurions, they came up shy, but they gave it a heck of a fight against Bishop Canevin. They fell 50-35, and this was a game that really, wasn't decided until the fourth quarter, much like Jeanette pulled away. Crusaders did enough to win by 15. Samir Crosby, again, this was his swan song as a football player. Hopefully we see him on the hardwood this year. 136 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, threw for 125 yards, had an 86-yard kickoff return touchdown. So he pretty much did everything in his power. And I do kind of go back and say, what if? What if he had been the quarterback all season? They were the 14 seed against the number 3 seed Bishop Canevin. Would they have maybe been a little bit better and could have had a more favorable matchup had they won another game or two? Also, go back to the loss at Riverview. Crosby didn't play in that game. So maybe that drops him down 2 or 3 or 4 spots. So there's definitely questions of what if, because I thought this was going to be a year where GCC went forward from where they were a year ago. And yet we saw a lot of that against Bishop Canevin. They took the number 3 seed down to the wire and made it a game in the fourth quarter, which you rarely see in a 3-14 matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think JT has to be happy with the way his team performed, and really, really cool to see Samir Crosby just leave it all out on the line, Sean. As you mentioned, 136 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, and also threw for $125 and returned that kickoff, 80-plus yards for a touchdown. I mean, he was the reason the Greensburg Central Catholic was in that game, the reason they were leading at halftime. Unfortunately, Bishop Canevin does what it does. I mean, it's, they're the 3rd seed for a reason. So it was, I thought it was impressive, as you mentioned, that GCC could hang around. And obviously a massive void, as Samir Crosby will graduate. I'm actually surprised, Sean. Obviously, he has Division I offers. I don't know when he, plans on committing, but I would imagine that'd be sometime soon.
Yeah, I mean, the first signing day, which is now like the main one, is about a month away.
Yeah.
So that's usually, I mean, you guys can sign obviously into February, but I think most of them want to know what their, their future home is.
Well, and we see Division I athletes obviously commit, after their junior year a lot too. So
yes. Although I will say commit needs to be in quotation marks, right?
Written in pencil, not pen.
Yes, that's right. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong, Flick. Samir Crosby, freshman year, you did a Saturday night broadcast at Bishop Canevin's Dormont Stadium. Is that correct?
We absolutely did. And, we heard a lot about Samir and how good he was. And honestly, that game, I don't know that he put up like eye-popping numbers, but you could just tell how good of a football player he was.
Did he have like a one-handed interception?
He did. You have better memory than I do. He may have.
I wasn't even there.
I know. That's what he may have. But I just remember him, like, again, just making all the little plays, like how he tackled, and he just looked like a really good, solid football player. And now you add all the flash and everything. So whoever gets him is going to be getting a good football player, and he's a good kid too.
Absolutely. And just to round out those games, Jeanette and GCC, those, of course, in the 1A bracket, as is Clairton's 50-0 win over Monessen. And no knock on the Greyhounds, but the big takeaway from this game, the 9th consecutive shutout for Clairton. Plus, if you want to say 10, you can, because they also won a game via forfeit during that mix. So
they probably would have been a shutout.
Yeah. Yes. The last 9 games that they've played, they have not allowed a single point. They have only allowed points week 0 against Amani Christian, who might be a championship caliber, or they're definitely a championship caliber team. They might be a team that plays for a championship in Class 3A. So I believe they gave up 18 or 19 against Amani and have not allowed a single point since then. It's scary how good they are, and they're doing this to everyone, even though I guess Monessen got to like the 25-yard line, and I believe that was maybe the closest that Wayne Wade said any team has gotten to scoring against him during that stretch.
That's unbelievable. Oh my gosh.
And they're not the number 1 seed in this bracket, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, they're the number 2. Wow. That, I mean, what more can you say? Again, as I mentioned before, it's not just the playmakers. They are just huge up front. They have big kids, for a single A school, I think that's the difference maker. Like, there's a lot of teams that have, Samir Crosby, Kimani Brown, and some of these single A teams can get away, like in Andrace, even though he got shut down by, who's it, Nishanik, the running back for Leechburg.
Yep.
Did not do much on Friday. But, some of these teams in single A, I feel like maybe you can get away with having, one real impact player or two impact players and still win games. But a lot of the teams don't have a lot up front. Clareton has both. I mean, they're just unbelievable. And defensively, to say that's just crazy. So
that's who Jeanette's got next.
Yeah. Good prize. But hey, I mean, Jeanette has a lot of pride on that side too. So we'll see how it goes.
No doubt. Well, let's look at the top performers this past week, the top passer, rusher, and receiver across the WPIAL, and then notable performers in Westmoreland County. Top passer, we already said his name. We talked at length about Joey Felitsky of North Catholic. 23 of 24, 433 yards. Landon Artman of Kiski area, the top passer in Westmoreland County. He goes 19 of 35, putting up 214. Kimani Brown of Jeanette, 8 of 16 for 138. And Samir Crosby passes for 125 yards on 9 of 19. Top rusher, it was Antonio Perkins. He led everyone with 219 yards representing the Burl Buccaneers. And then Samir Crosby of GCC goes for 136. Kimani Brown of 132. Yes, it is a common theme here. The top three rushers in Westmoreland County all were quarterbacks. The lone who went over 100 yards, who was not a quarterback, Max Doherty of Gary area with 105. And the top receiver, no surprise, it came by way of North Catholic, Preston Simcoe, 5 catches for 158 yards, and just under 100 yards for Kiski area. Tegan Shirley, 7 receptions for 98 yards. That'll do it for the first week of the playoff rundown of scores, as well as the top performers. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will look at all the brackets, and we will have interviews with Mike Brown, John Ruane, and Thomas Pallone. That's all upcoming on the special playoff edition, part 2 of Westmoreland on the Gridiron. It's powered by Bowser.
Game day or any day, the power of Bowser is here to get you where you need to go. From the latest Hyundai, Nissan, Subaru, Chevrolet, GMC, Buick, and Genesis models to quality pre-owned vehicles, Bowser has the perfect lineup for your drive. Look for a winning deal. Bowser's got the plays, great financing, top trade-in values, and a selection that's always in season. From the first whistle to the final buzzer, Bowser Automotive is your hometown MVP. Bowser Automotive, Route 51 South on top of the hill. Powerofbowser.com.
Some moments on the field go beyond the game. They shape who we become. At Home Team Collections, we honor those moments with the care and craftsmanship they deserve. Because these moments aren't just memories, they're a legacy worth preserving. Any team, any sport, any logo. Visit HomeTeamCollections.com today and save $10 off your first order.
We continue here, Westmoreland on the Gridiron, Wednesday, 7 p.m. You know when and where to find us. And, of course, this is our second playoff episode, maybe our last, depending on what happens this week. Fingers crossed that our teams do pretty well. Let's now take a look at all of the brackets, updates from 5A through 1A. 6A stays the same, but we'll reiterate it. It won't take very long. There's just 4 teams in it. Number 1, Central Catholic, hosting number 4, Cannon McMillan. And the matchup that we are focused on, number 2, North Allegheny, hosting number 3, Norwin. We'll hear from the head coach of the Knights momentarily. Flick, the first meeting was an instant classic, albeit a heartbreaking loss for the Knights. I would say that there's an argument that they are a better team now. I know that they're down a pretty significant player on the line. North Allegheny does not have momentum. Now, the week off maybe does the Tigers well because they had that brutal, just completely stunning loss against Pine Richland, and then they dropped their final regular season game, albeit not really a consequential one, against Seneca Valley. I think that you could certainly argue Norwin has more momentum and should be the favorite, but the Tigers are playoff tested. This is all new for the Knights, and maybe home field advantage could make a difference.
Yeah, it could. I mean, you would think Norwin had that game won. I mean, they were up 17-7 late in the third quarter. North Allegheny hits a big pass play, and then of course the block punt in the fourth quarter. Norwin's driving to potentially at least tie the game or win the game, and they get stopped on a fourth down and short play. I would have to imagine the rest of the regular season after that game, I mean, they have in the back of their mind, like, we want to see them again. And it seems like, much like it was during the regular season, but maybe even more now, it seems like this is the time, for Norwin to finally knock off one of those teams, North Allegheny, Pittsburgh Central Catholic, and they would get to play in a WPIAL championship game, which is unbelievable. So they have just a massive opportunity on Friday. As you mentioned, home field advantage for NA probably helps a little bit. But I would imagine there's going to be a lot of people from Irwin and North Huntington making the trip to kind of even that out. So really interested to see how that's going to go. Obviously, we want to give our thoughts and our prayers to Lucas Altier. Before the article from Bill Beckner came out in the Trib, his dad, Joe, who is a chiropractor in Jeanette, a lot of people know Joe, and he's one of our sponsors, loves our broadcasts. He's not only sponsors Norwin, but he sponsors Jeanette and Penn Trafford football and sports on our network as well. He let me know, about Lucas, and it was just a scary situation anytime you talk about blood clots, and I can't imagine, nice kid, a kid that we actually interviewed on our training camp.
One of the biggest people that I've ever interviewed.
And that's what my whole point really was. I mean, obviously we want to, give our thoughts and prayers. I know he's doing okay now. But man, that's a big, no pun intended, or is there one, loss for Norwin, because that's an advantage that they have had over pretty much everybody except Central Catholic, for goodness sakes. But the size up front, and to lose a big kid like that, a senior in Lucas Altier, that's a really, really tough blow to Norwin. Now, I guess the only silver lining is not like he got injured at the beginning of the game or something. They have a little bit to prepare without him. I mean, they have some time to prepare that he's not going to be there, but that's still such a tough loss for Norwin. And you really feel bad for him, Sean, because he missed a lot of the season last year with an injury, and now he can't play in the playoff game because of that. But I'm sure he'll be rooting his guys on.
Yeah, and his loss will be felt in some regard because North Allegheny, one of their better players, a familiar last name, Lincoln Hoke, the son of Chris Hoke, Pitt commit, he's a lineman. Probably not a surprise there. So maybe he gets a little bit more of an opportunity to wreak some havoc.
Well, and I believe he made the stop on fourth down, the fourth down stop in the first game.
Yeah, he's a good player, obviously. I'll be fascinated to see how NA looks, because I don't know if this has really ever happened while Art Walker has been guiding the program, that they had two losses back-to-back like they did. Here's the interesting part. They had that, 62, 67, whatever it was, nothing loss against 67, nothing
67,
loss.
yeah.
It was at Pine Richland. If NA wins, where's the championship this year in 6A?
Yeah, Pine Richland.
It's not at Norwin, which would have been awesome, by the way, had the Knights made it. Instead, it's at Pine Richland. So that would be a very bizarre scenario if North Allegheny does get to the championship and they go to the field where they lost 67-0 a couple weeks ago. I think it's fair to say Central Catholic is going to be the heavy favorite, regardless of who wins this game. But if you're the Knights, that would be the biggest talking point in the WPIAL, I think, is that Norwin's playing for a championship, because no one would have picked that prior to the season.
Yep, I agree.
Well, let's now hear from their head coach. That is Mike Brown. We'll have the opportunity to talk to him about this great matchup. After that, we'll take a break and run down the rest of the brackets. Here now, the head man for the Norwin Knights. This has been a terrific season for Norwin. 7 wins, making the playoffs, getting that number 3 seed. When you think back to the success of the regular season, what are some key ingredients that stand out?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the players. We gave them a blueprint, but the players, they followed it, but they're doing everything that we've asked for them, whether it be during the off season, during the season. So the hats off to them. But I think the biggest thing too is we're staying healthy. I think this is the healthiest we've been, as a team, especially this late, in the season and obviously in the playoffs. So granted, the kids, they're really taking care of their bodies. They really understand that's a key component to it. But honestly, it's the players that have been doing what, we've asked for them. And I think that's been, the biggest thing moving forward.
7 wins, but it still came down to the final week of the regular season for your team to officially clinch a playoff spot. So you win against Cannon McMillan in a close game. In week 8, week 9, you edge Mount Lebanon. What did you like most about your team's performances in those 2 games that ultimately proved crucial to get into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's, never giving up, the fight that they had. Both games, we found ourselves down, especially with quick plays, turnovers, things that have happened in a game where, the momentum tilted pretty quickly. So I'm really impressed with how the kids fought, how the players, stayed the course and fought through it. And, we've had some close games throughout the season that haven't gone our way. So I think we're really battle tested, and we have been on both sides of that, of being on close games. So I'm really impressed, though, is just they just keep fighting. Whether something happens good, something happens bad, our players, they keep fighting, and they go till the end of the whistle. They go to the end of the game.
One of those close games that didn't go your way, of course, was against North Allegheny. We'll get to that in a moment. But when you knew that Central Catholic was the number 1 seed, North Allegheny was the number 2 seed, and then your team was still fighting to get in, there was the potential you could get in as the 3, get in as the 4, or miss altogether. Did you feel like there was a significant advantage to getting the 3 seed as opposed to the 4?
Yeah, to a sense. I think we went into it the last 2 weeks of just let's control our own destiny, and I think we used it as, we want to make sure by what we do, we get in, whether it be the 3 or the 4 seed, because that's one of our goals, each and every year is to get into the playoffs. But, I think saw during the season, we kind of gave, a game up with that NA, and it's kind of been burning, since the end of that game. And, we kind of talked about it as a team that Sunday after is, we want to see, them again. And, but it had to work out into our favor. So we understood, the task at hand, but, we were more excited just to get into the playoffs and, worrying about who we're going to play now. But I think the kids, they know that they can, compete with any team in 6A. They think they've had that confidence, throughout the season. But, we're excited to get the 3 seed, and we're excited, to play North Allegheny.
So because there's just 4 teams in the bracket, all the teams were off last week. How did you use that week in preparation?
Yeah, it's felt like a month right now, with all the practicing. But we kind of got healthier than, we've ever been. We really got treatment. We got the kids, in the weight room quite a bit. But, we still went out and we still practiced. We really focused on the fundamentals, getting back to the basics, a lot of special teams work. But, the kids, they were focused throughout. We had a quick one on Friday because of Halloween, let them go enjoy Halloween a little bit. But it was great to have, that bye week, to kind of reevaluate some things, do a lot of self-scouting, stuff that we do. But we kind of focus more on ourselves, getting back to healthy, getting back to the basics, ensuring some things up.
So you're going against the Tigers for the second time. They won 20-17 at Norwin in the first meeting, but that was 6 weeks ago at this point. So I'd imagine both teams are a little different. How much can you take from that, and how much do you expect to be different this time around?
Yeah, I mean, as everybody knows, they have one of the greatest, coaching staffs, in the Whippeals. So, we're going to know they're going to do some things different. We're just going to have to adjust, to it. But anytime you're playing an NA team, they're going to be ultra physical. They're going to try to pound the rock. They're going to try to stop the run, which, that's what we kind of bank ourselves on offense. So, kind of like every game, especially in the 6A conference, you're going to play, a really physical football team. So, that's one thing that we don't even have to question. I think what we're going to see is, are there some things they're doing offensively or defensively, schematically, that we're going to have to adjust to. But, I think it's going to be kind of business as usual and playing, hard-nosed football, which they're great at.
What are the biggest keys to knock off the Tigers?
I think it's eliminating mistakes. That's what happened last time we've played them. We kind of got comfortable having a lead, and we gave up, couple big mistakes right before the half, and the interception at fourth quarter, third quarter. So you can't make those types of mistakes and give, a team like that any, room to breathe, or a short field like that, or they're going to capitalize on it. So I'm not saying we need to play a perfect game, but we just need to eliminate some of the mistakes and the turnovers. And just by talking about, the physicality, we have to control, that offense and defensive line. So, it's going to be a tough task for us, but I think our guys are up for the task.
This time, of course, it's a road game. Number 2 seed gets to play at its home field. The fact that it's the playoffs, do you think it's going to be noticeably different? Is it something that your players are going to at least take a drive or two to get used to, or do you think it's pretty much the same as a regular season matchup?
Yeah, I think it's going to be business kind of as usual because we've played there so much. Being in the conference, it's probably one of the cooler places to play. It's the atmosphere. There's nothing like it. So I don't really think it's going to, really sway one or the way or the other for us. I think we do a great job playing, away games and have shown that this year. So we're excited to kind of take that, us against the world mentality with us up there. But, being so familiar of playing up there, I think we'll be just fine.
Lastly, if your team is able to win, is it a little too late to pull some strings and make some phone calls to get Norwin back as the 6A championship venue?
That's totally out of my pay grade, and I'm happy that it is out of my pay grade. But wherever we play, we're going to be excited. So that's a talk for Mr. Burrow, and he'll have that talk with you.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for doing this. We appreciate it. Congrats. I know it's a big deal to get to the playoffs, and obviously in 6A, that is not an easy task. So congrats and good luck on Friday night.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
At Elliott Community Federal Credit Union, we're here to make your financial journey easier and more rewarding. With open membership to all that live, work, worship, or study in Westmoreland County, everyone can take advantage of our competitive loan rates, whether you're doing home improvements, buying a car, or making a personal purchase. Plus, enjoy free checking and online banking with remote deposits so you can manage your money anytime, anywhere. Elliott Community Federal Credit Union. Make our house your financial home.
Over the years, car dealerships have come and gone, but one name has stood the test of time. Smale? The Smale family's commitment to excellence is unwavering. We're proud to announce the grand opening of our new Smale Kia showroom. Right now, get up to $1,000 APR bonus cash on select models, plus 0% financing for up to 48 months on 2025 Kia Sportage and Kia Sorento gas models. Don't miss these savings. Now it's Smale Kia, Route 30 East, Greensburg.
We continue here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. We appreciate Mike Brown, the head coach of the Norwin Knights, for taking the time. So we now shift focus from 6A down to the 5A classification. This, to me, is the best one. I love 5A. I think it's awesome. A little surprised, however, that it went completely to chalk. Now, there was only 4 games because 4 teams got byes, but here's how it currently stands. Number 1, Pine Richland hosts number 8, Shaler. Number 4, Penn Trafford hosts number 5, Moon. That's going to be a great matchup, no doubt. Number 2, Peters Township welcomes number 7, Bethel Park. Number 3, Woodland Hills hosts number 6, Upper St. Clair. So should have at least 2, if not 3, really good matchups. And then, to be honest, I think Pine Richland could completely dominate against Shaler area. But this is a good bracket. There's a lot of teams that you could say maybe could win a championship. I think Woodland Hills and Upper St. Clair is a terrific matchup. But the one we're focused on, Penn Trafford Moon. One thing we know, Flick, the Warriors in recent years have gotten the better of the Tigers, but every single time it has come down truly to, the closing seconds.
Yeah, I mean, Penn Trafford was down, and it was 55 seconds left, I believe, the first time the teams played this year. And then you have the little, I don't know if you necessarily call it a throwback screen, but it was kind of a throwback pass to the end zone. With that thrilling victory for the first time the teams played at Moon earlier this year.
And Stickle on the receiving end.
Yes, Desmond to Stickle for the touchdown. So that was a really thrilling win. I mean, when they got the ball, I don't think anybody thought, 'cause I think they drove from their own 10-yard line. 90 yards with under a minute left. I mean, that was pretty wild, especially when you consider Desmond was still a pretty fresh starting quarterback at that point. So,
and they didn't have many of their best players in that game.
Yeah, did Ponko play in the game? I'm not sure if he did or not.
He did, but he didn't finish the
Grabowski
game.
Did not.
Grabowski was out, and then of course Jamison Yurt, who missed basically the first half of the season.
Yeah. So that was really tough. So I don't know. Penn Trafford always finds a way, I think, to peak at the right time going into the postseason, and that should be a great atmosphere on Friday night. But Moon's coming in too with a little chip on its shoulder with the way that Penn Trafford beat him the first time around.
Yes, and beat him last year, and beat him down in Heinz Field at the time in 2021 for a championship on a missed field goal. So it's always been a great matchup between those two schools, and we'll also see the benefit of rest or maybe the drawback of rust, because the 4 teams that are hosting, they all had byes last week: Pine Richland, Penn Trafford, Peters, and Woodland Hills. They would all probably be at least slight favorites, and again, I think Pine Richland is a massive favorite. But we'll see how they come off of a week of rest and recovery, and hopefully you're able to kind of get back into the groove early, because I could definitely see Moon jumping out to a lead here because they're coming off of a hard-earned win against Armstrong, 48-21. Ultimately, I think this is probably going to be a scenario where whoever wins this one is going to have a massive uphill climb against Pine Richland the next week, but you still want that opportunity if you're PT or Moon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just like, Jeanette winning against Bentworth, obviously going up against Clairton is we talked about it, just a massive challenge. And then you'd imagine Pine Richland will take care of business against Shaler. And then, obviously whoever wins this game will have to face, Pine Richland, who has just been a juggernaut all year. So, but hey, you worry about winning this playoff game. And I know the goal is the championship for every team, and especially a program like Penn Trafford. They were just there a couple of years ago winning WPIAL and state gold. They've been to a few WPIAL championship games under John Ruane. I get all that. But to have the opportunity to win a playoff game, I don't care who you're playing next. I mean, that's a big thing to win a playoff game. So especially in the quarterfinal round as well. So that would be, that'd be huge.
Well, you had to pull some strings, Flick, but you were able to convince John Ruane to do a live interview at their facility there.
I did. There were some deals that went on behind the scenes. He almost replaced himself with Boomer Prady. Boomer came in and said, "You want to interview me instead?" I said, "Yeah, go tell John that." So those guys always poke fun at one another, but pulled some strings, and we actually got John on video this week. Like, you're going to be able to see him. It's amazing.
Yes. He, and also during our pregame coverage on Friday night, which, by the way, this is a game that we are going to have for free on WSN, which is, I know even Ryan Lynn, the head coach of Moon, is excited about that, because you expect at this time of year that it's hard to find free video, but we're doing that. This is the game that we're bringing free for WSN. And I know that, he's excited about that as well. So, but on the pregame, we are going to have John Ruane and Jamison Yurt, the senior that we mentioned. So we have an interview with both of them. So now, without any further ado, let's hear from the head man of PT. Here's John Ruane.
First off, John, thanks for doing this. I'm sure it was a very productive week that you had, a week of practice, because you got that first round bye as the number 4 seed. So what were the biggest areas of focus from your last regular season game up until this point?
First, we wanted to get healthy. So anybody that was banged up, we made sure we took care of them, and kind of didn't kill the kids as far as physicality of practice. It was a good mental week. We still kept our routine. We still did practice the same way. We just maybe weren't as physical. It was more of a mental thing. Big focus on special teams. We've gotten better at that all year. This was, in a long time, probably the worst special teams effort we had was our first game against Moon. So, we reminded the kids of that. We watched film. We made some corrections there. And just getting ourselves better. And it's a great week to do that without the pressure of putting together a game plan on Friday and all the logistics of things. So it's unique to get a week of practice without a game, and we like it a lot.
I had asked you prior to your last game against Greater Latrobe about the seeding you winning, getting that number 4 seed, and the difference is 4 seed gets a bye. The 5 seed Moon had to play a first round game. How much of an advantage is that in your experience to have that week off?
This is the second time for us. First time, we didn't know if we'd like it or not because we're pretty routine driven. We ended up liking it a lot for all the reasons I just said. So it was good to experience that in the past and know what to expect this week. And the kids were very mature about it, and they handled things well.
When you walked off the field against the Wildcats with that 42-14 victory, did you have the expectation that you would get a bye?
We thought so. I mean, we knew Moon was the other team in the mix, and just based on our head-to-head game, we thought we probably earned it. Then we had a 9-1 record. We only had 1 loss, and we were hopeful for it. But either way, it would have been fine.
As great as 5A is, there was no upsets in the first round. I'm guessing you were at least paying attention to some scores, if not watching the games closely. So the top 8 seeds move on. How did you evaluate how the bracket seeded and then the first week of play in the bracket?
Well, we watched one game. It was Armstrong at Moon. We went to the game. We wanted to see them up close and personal again, and we're not really thinking about the rest of the bracket, to be honest with you. I know there's a lot of good teams, but we'd be out of our minds to look anywhere but Moon for this Friday. And we went there to see it live, to see the speed and kind of some intricacies, and we came home and watched it the next morning with the kids. And we really haven't talked about anybody outside of them. We just think it would be foolish to.
Seeing a team for a second time in a season, is that a benefit for you, or would you rather see a team for the first time because they don't know what to expect from your team?
Yeah, there's pros and cons for sure. I mean, we know how physical they are. We know how quick they are off the football, so we can prepare that better. You see it on film, you don't really understand. You don't understand how big people are or aren't. Obviously, this is a big football team, and they are very quick off the football. So I would say that's an advantage. The disadvantage is you already spent an entire game plan for what you thought would work against them, and things that did work, I'm sure they're prepping for. Things that didn't work, I'm sure they're looking to capitalize on again. So it's a little bit more work. I don't know how many times we've had this happen, maybe 3 or 4. We've played the same team twice. And each time the second game is a completely different game. So I know they're a better football team than they were, and we're a better football team than we were at that time. And we'll see how it shakes out.
When you think back to that game, it seemed like it was kind of a roller coaster, right? Good start, not good for a long stretch, and then you had that dramatic finish when you came down and scored the winning touchdown in the final seconds, winning at 25-24 at Moon. What were the biggest takeaways when you now think back to that game in September?
Really good learning experience. First of all, we figured out we can throw the ball in the 2-minute drill, and we rep the heck out of that. And you don't get that many times in the season to rep it. Not that it was practice, it was a game, and a meaningful game at that. The biggest thing we got out of our kids can perform under pressure, and that was huge. We didn't have Jamison Urick, we didn't have Ben Grabowski, Nick Ponko didn't play in the fourth quarter. Those are 3 of our top guys, and other guys stepped up and found a way to prevail, so we were really proud of them. We also learned, like I said, from our special teams gaffes. They were terrible. I didn't have us well enough prepared on special teams, and certainly we've learned from that since that night. And we learned about momentum. We learned about, we go up 12-0. We can't ease up. We can't assume the football game is over. They got momentum, and they played hard as heck after that. And the game changed, and unfortunately we were able to come back and win it.
You talked about your offense, late game scenario, going down the field, scoring a touchdown, and the passing game in particular, even though you weren't at full health. What have you seen most from the passing game and its growth from the start of the season to this point?
I just think anything in high school football experience means more than anything. So we have a first-year quarterback. I just think he has now seen a lot of defenses. More importantly, he's seen a lot of pass rush, and he understands if I look at this pass rush, I'm not going to complete any passes. I got to keep my eyes downfield. I got to feel the rush. I got to trust my protection. I got to trust where guys are going to be on time. And that's all experience. I mean, it's the most important attribute of a high school player is the experience of the speed of a Friday night and what could happen and the unexpected. And I think Nate's done really good making adjustments all year long. I think he's gotten better as the year has gone on. Certainly he has room to grow still, but we're really happy with his progress.
How has the defense made strides from earlier in the season? I think back in particular to that loss against Woodland Hills, and there was no doubt some issues tackling.
Yeah. That's probably the number one thing we've improved upon is our tackling and understanding. We have to wrap. We have to get more than one guy at the ball carrier. And I think that we've just really, really harped on it. We've watched a lot of film of our flaws. And, hopefully we fixed most of those. But that was a definite point of emphasis early in the year that we were not doing as good as we should have. And I think we've really stepped that up over the last 7-8 weeks.
Special teams, you've talked about it. It's been a major focal point. One guy who stood out in a big way is Jack Miller. And I know that Penn Trafford has a pretty good tradition of field goal kickers, especially during some of the best seasons. Certainly seems like he might be next in line with the growth he's shown. So has he become a guy you can count on in any scenario now?
We believe so. He kicked as a freshman. He had some big field goals in some big games as a freshman. This year he hit a 47-yard field goal. We're comfortable with him just outside of 50. He shows it in practice. He can do it. Jack's been consistent and just a guy we'll throw out there in any situation and expect him to make the kick.
Ryan Lynn, the head coach of Moon. You've gone against him many times now. In a WPL championship, you beat them by a field goal. You played them last year at Penn Trafford. It was a one-score victory. You won by a single point earlier this year. So it seems like you and he are always in these close matchups. What is kind of his characteristics of his team with Moon?
Well, I think we're two pretty evenly balanced teams, and I think that's probably their characteristics. We're very similar. We like to run the ball. They like to run the ball. We like to be physical on defense. They like to be physical on defense. I think both teams are good at play action. I think they're terrific at special teams. They always have been. I mean, the year we played at the stadium, I don't remember how many blocked field goals and punts they had, but it was in double digits. It was incredible. So obviously they put a point of emphasis on that. I just think it's two teams that have a lot of respect for each other, two physical teams that like the same style. Now, defensively, they're different than us. They are very aggressive. They play a ton of man-to-man. They definitely want to get in the backfield and wreak havoc. We understand that, and we're a little bit familiar with them, just like they're familiar with us.
So what are the biggest keys to get a victory and move on to the semifinals?
The turnover game is going to be huge. We can't turn it over, and we've got to get some. Both of us are momentum-based teams, and I think that's the biggest swing in high school football is getting turnovers. So we got to be great. Our special teams has to improve dramatically from game one. We nearly lost the game because of special teams in game one. So we've really made that a point of emphasis since that night, to be honest with you. And then our defense has to make them drive the field. No big plays. We want them, if they're going to get points on the board, it's got to be 12, 13 play drives. We don't want to give up cheap ones.
Lastly, it seemed like it became pretty clear down the stretch of the season. You're going to be playing a home game. We didn't know if it'd be first round or quarterfinals. It is in the quarterfinals. How much of an advantage is that to get one final game here at Warrior Stadium?
It's a big deal. We love our crowd. We love our community. They come out and really support us. I think our kids will be energized, especially the seniors. Last time they could come out of the locker room and play on this field. We're excited about that. I know they're excited about that. So it's definitely, we love playing at home. Let's put it that way.
Well, hopefully there's some home cooking tonight, John. Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
That is John Ruane, the head coach of Penn Trafford.
State Representative Mike Reese was a great advocate for the kids in our community. He felt athletics were a vital tool in raising healthy, happy kids. The Mike Reese Memorial Fund offers grants to local youth athletic organizations so that every kid has a chance to play. Funding is available for new equipment, registration fee offset, facility improvements, and more. Visit MikeReeseMemorialFund.com to apply.
Play It Again Sports in Greensburg is your locally owned and operated sporting goods store. We set ourselves apart by offering a wide variety of both new and used equipment at competitive prices. Located in the Greengate East Plaza, below Walmart, Play It Again Sports' knowledgeable staff will help you and your family prepare for every athletic season. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or trade, we are here as your one-stop shop. At Play It Again Sports in Greensburg, everybody plays.
We roll along here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron Report, powered by Bowser. We appreciate John Ruane for taking the time, although Flick kind of forced him into it. He threatened him and he had no choice. But we do appreciate him talking in what is a very stressful week, I'm sure, for all of these coaches. Let's now look at the other brackets, 4A, 3A, 2A, and 1A, before we hear from Thomas Plone of Jeanette. 4A, we didn't have any Westmoreland County teams in to begin, but we did have some interesting outcomes this past week. It is now semifinals action. This, much like 6A, will be playing the championship at Pine Richland on November 15th. Number 1, McKeesport knocks off Char Valley. That means the Tigers will go against number 4, Thomas Jefferson, as the Jags knock off Mars. So it's 1 versus 4 on one side. And how about this for the upset of the 4A bracket? Number 2, Trinity falls against number 7, Aliquippa, although can you ever say it's truly an upset when the Quips win in the playoffs? Quips knock off the Hillers 21-14, so number 7, Aliquippa, will go against number 3, Newcastle, as the Red Hurricanes just narrowly edge 6-seeded Montour 14-13. McKeesport at TJ, that's a terrific matchup, will be at Chartiers Valley. Aliquippa at Newcastle, that will be at Elwood City High School. Again, these are semifinals in the 4A bracket. In 3A, Westmoreland County teams unfortunately went 0-4-3. Avonworth, the number 1 seed, got a bye, and the Antelopes, who are the heavy favorite to defend their title, they'll go against number 8, Freeport, as the Yellow Jackets knocked off 9-seeded Beaver 35-27. 4-seeded Elizabeth Forward also got a bye, and we'll see the 5th seed North Catholic Trojans because of North Catholic's 56-14 win against Borough that we talked about. 12-seeded Buccaneers see their season end. Number 2, Amani Christian earns a bye and will play at home at UPMC Grand Field in Wilkinsburg against number 10, Hopewell. That's because the Vikings knocked off number 7, Southmoreland 42-6. And Central Valley, the number 3 seed, will host number 6, Highlands. Of course, the Golden Rams edged number 11, Derry 14-0. This will take place down at Acrisure for the championship. That will be a 5 o'clock kickoff on November 22nd. The 2A bracket is as follows. This one also will take place down at Acrisure on the 22nd. Number 1, Seton LaSalle gets a bye and will host, and when I say host, I mean at Dormont Stadium, number 8, Mohawk. Mohawk edging Our Lady of the Sacred Heart 17-14 in the 8-9 matchup. Number 4, South Allegheny defeats 13-seeded Waynesburg Central 61-13. Gladiators will go against number 5, Washington, the Prexies, with a 37-8 victory over Beaver Falls. That matchup will take place at Charleroi High School. Number 2, Western Beaver also gets a bye, and the Golden Eagles will welcome number 7, Apollo Ridge, as the Vikings claimed a 28-7 victory over number 10, Riverside. Getting all choked up talking about this matchup. The Vikings got all 4 of their touchdowns by way of Jaden McCray, who is the son of a former Penn State New Kensington basketball coach, Art McCray. Saw him Saturday at Seton Hill, so maybe the Griffins are looking at young Jaden McCray. Steel Valley, the number 3 seed, gets a bye and will play number 6, Elwood City Wolverines, 35-13 victors over number 11, Keystone Oaks. So once again, semis upcoming a week from now, and the championship will be on the 22nd at Acrisure. And lastly, the Class 1A bracket, where we do have a Westmoreland County team still around. The bracket looks as follows. Number 1, Fort Cherry advances convincingly, 48-14 over 16-seeded Avella. And the Rangers will go against number 9, Neshannock, which won the matchup against number 8, Leechburg, 49-14. That will take place at Beaver Area High School. Number 4, Laurel advances with a 35-0 shutout over 13-seeded Jefferson Morgan. Spartans go against number 12, Chartiers Houston, a big win for the Buccaneers, 26-21 over number 5, Southside Beaver. That matchup in the quarters will take place at West Allegheny. The one that we are focused on, number 2, Clairton, a 50-0 victory over 15-seeded Monessen, another shutout for the Bears. They will face number 10, Jeanette. As we said, the Jayhawks, 38-24 victors over 7-seeded Bentworth. 2 versus 10 at Franklin Regional High School in Westmoreland County. Maybe some home cooking for the Jayhawks. And 3rd-seeded Bishop Canevin knocks off GCC 50-35. Crusaders will go against number 11, Fraser, which pulled off an upset, defeating 6th-seeded California area 27-12. That will be at Canon McMillan High School. Flick, the quadrant that we are focused on, Bears, Jayhawks, we mentioned, it's going to be awfully tough. I think the most important thing that Jeanette could do is score a touchdown in the first quarter. And I know that is a big challenge. But I do wonder if the Bears gave up a touchdown in the first quarter, especially the first drive, would that kind of get them out of that mindset? Would that get them off their game just enough to at least give a sliver of an opening for the Jayhawks?
You a big Rocky fan?
Yeah. I mean, Rocky 3 probably might have been my favorite because the Hulkster was in it.
Thunderlips.
Yeah.
My favorite was Rocky 4.
Is that Tommy Gun?
No, that's 5. Rocky 4 was Drago, the Russian.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. And he's still like around here and there. I forget the guy's name now off the top of my head. Anyway, yeah, like Rocky's getting pummeled and all of a sudden he hits him and he cuts him. The Russians cut. And that's something that, Jeanette's doesn't need to draw blood for God's sakes, but like that's something they need to do early. I mean, that's a great point. Just kind of all of a sudden just shock them by scoring a touchdown at the beginning of the game, and then maybe that gets them off their game. I don't know, because, again, they haven't given up a touchdown for so long. Yeah, they need to get off to a great start, do something like that early in order to have a chance in the game. I mean, they've just been so dominant. And we've seen Jeanette Clareton matchups in the past that going into the game, you were toss-ups, or maybe Clareton was slightly favored, maybe Jeanette was slightly favored. This one obviously is kind of a David versus Goliath thing, which Clareton has had over everybody. And again, Jeanette's just going to need to get that quick punch in early.
Two interesting points here. Here's the scoring differential this season for the Bears. Keeping in mind, one of their games was a forfeit. So I don't know if that's a 2-0 victory or whatever it is. They have outscored their opponents 532-19. So they're outscoring their foes by more than 500 points in 10 games that are actually contested on the field this year. It truly is. Second, you and I were together. We weren't able to do broadcast at the time. It was during the old regime. It was 2020, Martirelli Stadium. Do you remember that day?
I do.
Jeanette just blew out Clareton. It was shocking how dominant the Jayhawks were in that championship win.
Yep. That was behind Brad Birch as a freshman.
Yes. It felt like things changed very quickly for Jeanette after that year.
Yeah.
And I also think because the players have moved on for both teams, but Wayne Wade is still around, and it truly feels like he probably remembers that game quite a bit. So I know every time that he goes against Jeanette, I'm sure he's always trying to get the better of another historic program. But truly, I would say 2 of maybe the top 5 programs in WPIAL history. Is that a fair assessment, Clareton and Jeanette?
Sure, I think so. I mean, we could name some of the others. Obviously,
Aliquippa's in there.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's tough to top these schools.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that's why, man, like, if they were a little bit more, and again, I'm not saying we're not giving Jeanette a chance here, but I just wish that it was, kind of back then, even before then, that they were, when Jeanette played, was it Amani Christian in the Whippeal Championship back? They had to
Robert Morris.
They had to beat Clareton to get there. And I think they lost to them in the regular season and then beat them in the playoffs. And I remember Roy Hall saying, I didn't just get a monkey off my back. I forget what his comment was.
Did he get a gorilla?
Was it a gorilla? Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, I got a gorilla.
That's a Steve Young line there. There we go.
Oh, I didn't know that. You would know that. Niners
Steve
fan.
Young, one of my favorites. Yeah.
So
I think that the history of the schools kind of sells itself, and I will be curious because there's no doubt Clareton's heavy favorites. Can Jeanette challenge them at least a little bit and put some game pressure on them? Because that's something that the Bears have not dealt with really for a long, long time this season. But doesn't matter what you and I think, Flick. What matters is what Thomas Pallone thinks, the head coach at Jeanette. Let's now hear from Tom Pallone talking Jayhawks and Bears. First off, Thomas, congrats. A big win against Bentworth, an upset win, at least based on the seeding, as you knock off the Bearcats 38-24 in the opening round. So what were the biggest takeaways? What did you like most about your team's performance in that victory?
Just overcoming the environment. I thought, early in that game, Bentworth came out and they fought us pretty good, and we kind of responded to it. It's tough to be the road playoff team, and our guys hung in there, and eventually cracked the game open with a block punt touchdown, and to go up 38-17 was a big turning point. So they just hung in there and fought every quarter with some grit and got the victory.
You talk about that special team score, but it really seemed like the fourth quarter as a whole, your team pulled away. It was a tie game heading into the final quarter, and then you were pretty clearly better. So was there anything in particular that changed on your side?
Just those big moments on special teams, with the block punt, after, we tried to kick a surprise sky kick. We recovered the ball and it got called back on an inadvertent whistle. We thought that fired our team up. We go on defense 3 and out, then we block the punt and Sunder scoops and scores it. So, I thought that was a big turning point, and just to give us the confidence to put the game away, and that obviously changed their play calling. They're more of a running team, and going down with that many points that late, they had to go to the air. So I thought our guys adjusted well and put the game away in that moment.
And their star player, Ben Hayes, he still made an impact. He still had a good game, but he didn't take over the game like he typically does for them. So what did your defense do well to contain him?
Just swarmed to the ball. I think our goal was to hold him under 60. I think he had 79 on offense. He did have a big kick return, which hurt. It's hard not to make steel kick deep. Then when he doesn't reach the end zone, it goes right to him. But that's more my fault than his. But our defense just really played gap integrity, and they got us on some runs, and the adjustments were great by our staff, and the kids were receptive to it. So, I think our kids did a great job, just getting them on the ground.
On the other side, Kimani and Jace Powell have been your two big stars all season, and they were good again. But 5 different players scored touchdowns, not necessarily on all on offense, but when you can have that many different guys contribute and get into the end zone, I would imagine it's really a welcome sight. So how was that a big asset in that victory?
Huge, just multiple guys stepping up, and we pride ourselves on trying to spread it around, and there's not just one thread on that offense, there's multiple. So obviously Jason and Kamani drive the engine most of the time because they're just superior athletes. But, it's awesome to see, our guys clicking on all cylinders in all 3 phases.
Does it feel different when you're in the playoffs? Is it something that is, evident when you're out there on the field? Is it something that you notice in the intensity for the players changes as well?
It does. It just seems like, every snap matters, especially with practice this week. We're going to be practicing under the lights now. It's November. Not everybody's practicing. There's 3 Westmoreland County teams practicing this week, Norwin, PT, and us. So it is surreal. It's different feel, just to feel the environment every Friday in the stadium, and to see college basketball tip it off this week. It's just a different feel, off and on. You truly feel like you're week to week, and today's the only day that matters.
Is there some knack that you and your team has of getting postseason upset victories? Because you did it a couple of times last year as well, and you do it again this year. And as you mentioned, there's not many teams in our area who are still playing football.
Sure, we kind of took on that mentality, especially after last year. We felt like we maybe got disrespected in the seedings, but we felt it was a very winnable game going to Bentworth. And credit them. I mean, they're a great team. They had 9 or 8 wins. So I just think we just put that chip on our shoulder, and like we just talked about, it's literally week to week, and I think this group really enjoys being with each other. So we wanted to make sure that we had that extra week and qualified for the quarterfinal.
Well, now your team has 8 wins, and we talked about the postseason upsets. I would think that this would be the biggest upset, certainly by far, compared to the previous 3 postseason victories over the last couple of years. You go against Clairton, and not only are they winning games convincingly, they've not allowed a point since week 0. It's truly one of the more remarkable streaks that I remember seeing. So how do you find some way to do what no team has been able to do for 10 weeks now?
Sure. Just get an ultra focused game plan together, which I think we have as a staff. And, I think focusing on what we can do and not what can't we do. There's plenty of stuff that we can't do against Clarendon. But there's some stuff that we think we can do. And obviously that comes down to our players executing on Friday. And yes, they have some superior talent, and that's great. But it really just comes down to what we can do. and really sticking together quarter by quarter, staying in it, after quarter one, after quarter two, after quarter three, and look up at quarter four to see if we're within striking distance. So, it's just, again, just focusing on the cans, not the can'ts, and just grinding this thing out and competing, right? We're competitors. We're from Jeanette. We want to go against the best. This is a blessing to go against the top team in the WPIAL, top team in the state. So, we can't lose sight of that.
So you've already played them once. I know that did not go the way you wanted. Do you take a lot from that game? Do you revisit? Do you look at the film, or do you kind of, turn the page, wipe the slate clean, and say, let's not worry about what happened at prior meeting?
Yeah, I think this puts us in a unique situation, Sean, because I think the first time we played them, after the first quarter it was 15-0. Then it got out of hand the second quarter. Then, in the back of our minds, we did have Gridiron Central the following week, and we knew that was a game definitely we wanted to win. So when things got out of reach, we kind of pivoted to protecting our guys. So, in this case, there is no next week. And, I think that there's some things that we did that first game that we can't do this game. So, yeah, I think that tape was very telling on where to start with the game plan. And I think we took away a lot. And I think you'll see a different strategy this time around for the Jayhawks going against Clarendon, but definitely took a lot away from the first meeting.
Lastly, I know that this is a conference opponent, a team that has a championship history that's right up there with Jeanette's. Obviously, these are two of the most storied programs in WPIAL history. Does it feel special when you see Jeanette and Clairton lining up against one another?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, two of the premier small schools, not at the schools with the most resources, that maybe some of the 6As have, but just the history, just the star power that's come from both programs, the Tyler Boyds of the world, the Terrell Pryors of the world, and guys that are under him that, that wouldn't get as much recognition, like the Aaron Matthews of the world, who went on and had a great career at Pitt, and Wade, who went up to Penn State. And of course, our guys, Jordan Hall in recent years went to Ohio State, that might not get the ink that Pryor does, and different guys going on to play for different programs. So yeah, it's special, seeing these two programs go at it, and I'm glad to be a part of it one Friday night.
Well, Thomas, congrats on the postseason victory. I know that you understand how special that is, and good luck this Friday against the Bears.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
And we appreciate Thomas Pallone for taking the time, as always, in what is a very big and stressful week for high school football coaches. Well, that's basically it for the WPIAL playoffs. We do not have Seton Hill football this week either. The Griffins, they've got a bye week, open week, whatever. It's not ideal that it's this late in the season, because they only have one game out of it's a crossover matchup. So
second to last game of the year, or second to last week of the year.
It's a little bizarre to have it. You would much rather have it like mid-season. Nonetheless, they are not playing this week. However, St. Vincent is playing at Waynesburg. Bearcats 2-6. They are 1-5 in the PAC. Waynesburg is 3-6, 3-4. That will be a 1:00 kickoff on Saturday. All right, Flick, final thoughts, whether that's promoting our broadcast or anything else you want to touch on before we put a bow on what could be, depending on outcomes, our final Westmoreland on the Gridiron of 2025.
Well, first of all, sir, I just want to wish you a belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sean turned 29 earlier this week. Mm-hmm. So happy birthday.
And listen, this is 100% serious. The fact that the Penn Trafford football Facebook did something was completely unexpected. I don't know who runs that. I don't even know how they knew that it was my birthday.
I think Rush does, but I'm not sure.
But that was really cool. And then a lot of people commented on that as well, including Vince DiAugustine.
He did. I was just talking to him about you. I don't know why you came up, and he's like, "That's my man." So I think he loves the fan. So
he does.
He doesn't love WSN. He loves the fan.
Yeah. But anyway, that was awesome that they did that for me. So that was completely unexpected.
And I know Rush is a huge follower of our broadcast and of the show. So he's probably watching right now. Hi, Rush. We'll see you on Friday, buddy. Yeah, I mean, this is really exciting this weekend. Obviously, we got you mentioned a free game, and these are things that we need to kind of manage behind the scenes and things of that nature. But Penn Trafford and Moon, the atmosphere should be great at Penn Trafford. Playoff game at home, really cool. We'll also be broadcasting Norwin and North Allegheny. That will be streamed to NFHS Network. Because it's a semifinal game, we have to stream it to NFHS. And then, again, for that Jeanette Clareton game, it has to be an audio-only game. I could get into all the specifics, but that'll take another show. So that's audio only on Friday night, but Brent and Anthony will be back in the saddle to broadcast that game for you. So it's really nice to be able to broadcast these playoff games. Again, we have to be a little bit creative with certain things, but should be a lot of fun to see how everything kind of plays out on Friday night.
And just full disclosure, it's going to depend on how our Westmoreland County teams do as far as whether or not we're going to do another show. If all three of them win, we probably got to do it because we're talking about Norwood playing for a championship. We're talking about PT playing against Pine Ridgeland. We're talking about Jeanette with the upset of the year potentially. So that would be great. Fingers crossed. If things maybe go the other direction, obviously we're not probably going to be back for another week. So we'll see how it plays out.
But
fingers crossed that our teams do well.
But Sean, even if we do not have a show next week, I'm sure, let's say, I don't know, two of the teams win or something. I'm sure you will be interviewing the coaches, and we'll put them up on our YouTube channel.
That's
People
right.
can check them out on our social media pages as well for the link to watch those previews. So it's not like we're just saying no Gridiron, we're done. We're not previewing anything. We're still going to be
doing the article previewing the games.
The article
all of them
and
that remain as well. So
yep, yes, sir.
All right. Well, that will do it for this edition. We'll see if we're back next week. But for now, we will put a bow on this one for my colleague and good pal, Dan Flickinger. Sean Myers signing off. This has been the special playoff edition, part 2 of Westmoreland on the Gridiron, powered by Bowser.
Good night, everybody.